Okay, you can start with your
Yes.
present yourself.
Okay. So my name is Sofia Pagliarin, and I am a postdoc researcher at the Swiss Federal Research Institute for Forest, Snow and Landscape. And I am an urban sociologist, and within the group of landscape ecology in my institution there is this concours research project, which is a 5-year research project trying to link strategic spatial planning, spatial planning with the land change science, and we are working on trying to model and measure and account for actually the impact of strategic spatial planning into land change models, land use change models. This presentation is actually part of the theoretical framework I'm using for my research, and it has been done in cooperation with the professor Gerrits. What we would like to do in this with this presentation is actually to show you how the concept of trajectory can be actually used to show possibly an alternative way to approach complexity in the urban environment. We have started actually from cellular automata and agent-based models, and which are probably the most popular approach, most popular application of complexity in urban environments. And our argument is that actually also critical examinations of what they can do and what they cannot do should be included. And our goal is starting from CA and ABM, and our goal is actually to show that by the use of the concept of coevolution and trajectory, there is possibly this third way or this alternative way, both theoretically and methodologically, to apply complexity in cities. As we all know, CA and ABM generate complex behavior from simple from the interaction of individuals based on simple rules, and that randomness play a crucial role in these models, because we don't know from the beginning which would be the unfolding of the system. They are non-linear mathematical models, and they model global patterns from individual agents. However, we have to remember that the ontology of reality, so what reality is not actually the same as the tools as we use, and we think that CA and ABM should be considered as tools that we have to apply complexity in urban environments, and that they should still be considered analogies, metaphors that we have to study complexity in cities. And we are using here the concept of simplistic complexity by Byrne. And we, in our critical analysis or critical examination of CA and ABM, we argue that the popularity of these models is rooted in 3 main reasons. So the first is the simplicity of rules. There is a difference between CA and ABM, but basically the basic structure of how the model works are similar. The second reason are the technological advances, so especially the computer power and the new tools we have, for instance, NetLogo or all the other models we have. For instance, in land use, there are CLUT, SLUT, and many other models we have. And then for the fact that they focus on the concepts of emergence and self-organization, which are possibly, without possibly, they are absolutely 2 core concepts of complexity, especially if applied in the urban environment. However, we also argue in our paper and also in our in this presentation today that there should be also explicit arguments should be given about the appropriateness of these models when we apply them into the urban environment, and that the researchers should give explanations or justifications why these CA and ABM models are the best tool, or in that context, in the context that they are studying, to approach complexity. We have started in our paper from CA and ABM models, however, and I'm here showing some of the findings of a work in progress by Debren and Gerrits about actually these two epistemic communities that are found in the field of planning or urban studies and complexity. They have surveyed over 100 papers published from the 1970s until today, and they coded the papers, so they did a content analysis, and they actually realized that there are two different communities within, I mean, what we are, our own community. So first, it's the modelers, so the people that use mainly use CA and ABM, as I have already discussed, and then there are the qualitative researchers. We have, for instance, listened to different qualitative researches during this workshop. So, like, the focus is on human actors, on human behaviors, the governance structures, and it's mostly, these analyses are mostly based on case studies. What Debren and Gerrits found out is that even if there is the same jargon is used, the same concepts, actually the ideas, the theoretical framework, and the methodologies, the methods that are used are very different. So our standpoint, or what we wanted to contribute through this paper, was: is there another way actually to apply complexity to urban studies or in urban environment? Do we still have to choose between ABM and CA and qualitative approaches to complexity? We think that an answer could come from complex complexity, which is theoretically related with a critical realist approach. So even if general rules and regularities are, of course, useful, and they should be considered, meta theories, so contextual meta theories of explanation should be searched for, meaning that the diversity and the time and space boundedness of social spatial phenomena should be considered, and that's what complex complexity argues for, especially through the comparative method, which is possibly the most distinctive sociological technique, or like a technique used in social theory and social method. So from here, sorry, there is the pointer right in the middle. Okay. So from here, we use the concept of coevolution, which was introduced by Norgaard, and then recently elaborated by Gerrits and other of his collaborators. And basically, we defined coevolution as the inextricable intertwining between physical systems and social systems, and it's complex precisely because it has been going on for millennia. So it's very difficult. I mean, like, physical systems and social systems are heuristically separable, but in practice they are very much intertwined. And this is a scheme to show you what we mean by coevolution, and how can the concept of trajectory, always from complexity theory, be useful in this theoretical framework. We consider the concept of trajectory as a result of the coevolution process between actors and the environment. And we define a trajectory as a collection of states of development. And in order to understand maybe what trajectory are, we should think about the concept of attractor basins, which is this n-dimensional space composed of different attributes that define our systems. And the trajectories can describe both historical series of development states of an individual case and also shifts in the system. However, until now we have been more on the theoretical part, so the concepts of trajectories and coevolution are theoretical concepts, but at the methodological level, we think that configurational comparative methods are actually this third way methodologically to approach complexity in urban environment. Configurational comparative methods come from the comparative methods in the social sciences, but they have more consistently been elaborated by Ragin in 1987 through Boolean algebra and set theory and logic theory, and further elaborated more recently using fuzzy algebra and fuzzy sets. And so we basically combined these inputs from the configurational comparative methods with the concepts of coevolution and trajectory. And so we define these states of development, so the attributes that compose our system as sets, the conditions. We have been already listening or hearing conditions this morning, but we use it in a very precise way because it's connected with the configurational comparative methods. So an element of a system, for instance, an individual case will show a certain membership to a certain attribute of the system. For the ones who don't know what the configurational comparative methods are, this is actually an example by Ragin defining Santa Claus. What is Santa Claus? Well, it's an individual case made up of 3 different attributes, and if one of the attributes is missing, we don't have Santa Claus anymore, we have something else.
First year.
So, coming to our theoretical framework, this is basically the same. This is a Venn diagram that we have also seen previously. This is our attractor basing, our phase or property space, that it's also used in configurational comparative methods, and especially in qualitative comparative analysis. And this is a 3-dimensional space, property space composed by 3 attributes, and the points in between, inside are the cases. So we can describe our case or each single point by considering configurationally, so like concurrently all together, the different attributes. This is, I will just skip that, but anyway, this is just a schema to put together the coevolution and this trajectory and comparative methods part. In our paper, we also wanted to go beyond statements, and actually we tried to make an illustration using 4 different cases of knowledge hubs in 4 European cities. This is just an example to show how these are, in a way, our conditions, our attributes. We have been also hearing about the economic situation or like the coordination or how the actors interact. So in a way, in this very simple and restricted example, we try to define through the use of interviews the attributes or the conditions that can define the development trajectory of all these 4 cases from the 1980s until today. And here we use verbal categories, so the fact that they can be different between the cases, and this would be a table that could be used for qualitative comparative analysis. So where the category we use, so where the category used and calibrated, it's called by the researcher in very transparent and clear terms, is translated or transformed into fuzzy sets, so into values ranging from 0 to 1. I will just go on because otherwise I don't have much time to go into detail of everything, and I will come to our final remarks, which we actually, through this paper, we try to show how there can be an integration between the concepts of coevolution and trajectories and configurational comparative methods to study complexity in urban systems, and so that they, in a way, can offer a third way or an alternative way that we have besides CA and ABM and qualitative analysis. But that they are, of course, not mutually exclusive, that they can be used in combinations. For instance, qualitative comparative analysis as a type of configurational comparative methods is qualitative. I mean, uses qualitative information, can also use quantitative information, but we, for instance, use the interviews. And it's a way to connect the micro level and the macro level, because you are considering the individuals, the actors, but you are trying to abstract to the conditions or what enables development, or then it very much depends on your research question. And this will also help to stimulate clarity regarding how we consider the system, how we identify the attributes, and how the system is calibrated. And it can also offer a way to open the black box of individual action that is not really taken accounted for in CA and ABM. And I thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Okay, then our official commentator is not, unfortunately, here, but Barbara will start, and I've got a couple of critical insights.
Thank you for the interesting presentation. Also in a world that I'm not super familiar with, the modeling versus the alternatives. First, a small remark, which kind of I think was nice in the paper and pinpoints what you talk about. You at some point say we talk about attributes and not about variables. And I think that really, if you show the Venn diagram, it shows the approach you have to how characterize things. And when I read that, from that point, I got, okay, this is what it's about. This is the kind of approach you take to identifying and characterizing things, which is I think the main difference of the approaches you're suggesting. So you talk about ABM and the trajectories approach and then the third alternative. But I was wondering, in the beginning you mentioned that ABM has its own application and usefulness. And the trajectories approach also, and I got the idea that for ABM it's more about predicting the future, and the trajectories is more about describing the past. I'm not right,
Yeah.
Okay. So I was wondering, does your alternative or the idea you develop in the paper, how does it deal with this? Is it also a kind of a combination or both, or how would you position it in this kind of?
Yeah, I mean, there are I think that there are some similarities between CA, ABM on the one hand and the QCA, because they both calibrate. I mean, you have to identify the rules, you have the rules or the attributes, you have to identify the system, you have to calibrate the rules, so it's, but you're right, it's CA and ABM are more for prediction, while QCA is very much based in sociological theory and social methods, so you predict the past, so you try to explain the past. I would say that there are some ways through which you can include time in your analysis. There are a bunch of techniques that you can use to integrate QCA with the time dimension. We also talk about it a little bit in the paper. Yeah, QCA is not really for prediction, so it's in this way is very much different. But it opens up for thought experiments, for instance, for counterfactual, because it's really inside the method itself. So for the moment, it has not been used, as far as I know, for prediction. So I think would be one major difference between the two methods.
Yeah, because I wonder if you would try to transfer it to predicting the future, you don't slip into the first path anyway. So then the question is, what is it an instrument for? How could you use it? What is its usefulness and what is its unusefulness as well?
I mean, QCA, we think it's a very good tool because it allows you to consider different conditions altogether. It's a configurational method based on set theory, logic theory. So, for instance, to explain one trajectory, for instance, of a certain city or a certain area, you take into consideration the presence and the absence of conditions, So, and you compare it with another case that may have either different path, or may have a condition present that is not there in the other one. So it helps you to systematically compare cases. And because what it can do is actually to, because we have a lot of collection of individual cases, of case studies, but we kind of need also to go a little bit higher than this and try to learn from all the different cases. And QCA is a very good method to actually to systematically compare within cases, because you can extract the different of how one area or one city developed through time, or with different type of cases. I'm not sure where it will go. So I mean, there are of course some things that you can do with QCA, but it really goes in the methodological procedures of the method. So we can discuss it later. Yeah.
Well, Mark has a question, but may I hijack this?
Yeah, sure.
For a while, because to put a couple of things in order.
Yes.
I think this paper was very, very interesting, and shows that we really have here also a kind of urge towards meeting these other people on the modeling side, and I have a feeling that they have the same feeling too. They last week, for example, I saw many models which they were presenting dynamics where they were using social theory and psychological theory of people's motivation and such. What I think is kind of missing here is that you could work with some hardcore modeler. Yes. You could, for example, kidnap one and force him to be the third author or something. Because there's a little bit of issues. For example, in complexity society of modelers, we're not trying to predict anything, but we're trying to see indeed on which attractor the system is on, because when it's on an attractor, it's kind of sticky. So we understand what kind of dynamics it's very likely to have for maybe a little bit, maybe in a very close future, but understanding about the bifurcations and such. So the prediction is impossible. So what comes to the Imperia and the models, there are a lot of models from, say, 10, 20 years, which are using Imperia, including mine, Ines's, the one we're building with Yara at the moment. And so it's there. It's not like the ad hoc models are from 80s and 90s, I would say. Then what comes to these attractors, I think it's kind of the basic, part of the basic set in CA dynamics, for example, coming from work of Wolfram in 1984, different dynamic states of the system when simulated by using CA. Mm-hmm. We can see the typical periodic, static, complex, chaotic dynamics, and that's in very, very, very center of the whole modeling thinking. It's also been explicated by Helen Coakless and Paul Torrance in, if I don't remember wrong, 2001. They wrote a paper where they said that the only way to use a model is actually to try to try to run it exhaustively using different parameters to see which are the attractors that come out, which are possible for the model. So then we can see how we should alter the parameters to make the model to go to different attractors. And then there is also a very, very fancy philosophy by Manuel de Landa from 2011, you probably know, about similarities and attractors. So it's kind of like a long tradition in CA, within CA, very intrinsic in there. And I love the way you brought it here, combining with social theory, but I really hope you would go in deeper into to the other side to kind of like bring it from there too. And then also, I don't know how, you probably wrote another paper or last edit about the kind of like an exhaustive review of models, right? It's not here, because you were using a lot of Batty 2005. and
Maybe it's a little bit old, but
yeah, it's really really old, and it's not the best source, I would say.
yeah.
Yeah.
But still, it's I don't know, maybe a seminar. I mean, I really like that book, and I think it's still very much.
Yeah.
I mean, here maybe we enter the realm a little bit of what are the similarities and differences between CA, EBM, and like our approach.
Yeah.
I said, I mean, they are not mutually exclusive, and I see a lot of points of similarities. And our paper was not absolutely to dismiss those models. We see the utility. And actually in the project I am working in, there is a modeler, and actually what we have tried to do is actually to tell him how to improve land cover, land use change models in order to account for planning much more consistently, because for the moment in the models that are used for urban growth or land use change predictions, I agree that maybe they are not like a super prediction, but they still try to make scenarios. Planning is like only about the regulations, or like if it's protected or not protected. It's very simple rules, and they cannot really account for all the diversity in planning that there is, how actors decide. So what we are trying to do, and he's trying to model the findings of our own research. I'm working more on the conditions of development. We are working on governance. Eduardo Oliveira is working on governance, and there is another colleague who is a geographer, and she's working on spatial concept of the plans. So we are trying to combine it, and actually this project is really much on trying to make a link, because it should be done, and there should be a dialogue.
That is great. That is absolutely great. You should done that.
Yes.
You should do that, definitely, and we all should.
Yeah.
And just a friend's advice, you get a better response to the paper if you fix it a little bit, because as such, it's a good paper, but if you introduce that to hardcore modelers, to that society, they go nuts.
No, we are still, I mean, of course there is a lot of work to be done, but we first wanted to have some reaction, but we are completely aware of that. So, but thank you.
Good work. Okay, now really question.
That was a beautiful reflection, absolutely. So, I really, what I find attractive on this method is that it allows us to talk about configurations of conditions, and also not saying, well, this is the configuration of condition, that will happen, but it's more that it's sufficient to produce a range of possibility trajectories, or possible trajectories, sorry. But then you said, it's also possible to include time. And as far as I know, I'm not really an expert on QCA, but I have read a bit about it. It's still snapshots.
Yes.
And also then linking to Jenny's comment, it doesn't tell us anything about how strong an attractor is. Just that there is an attractor.
Yes. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
So that's just questions that are puzzling me in evaluating the usefulness of this method.
Regarding the first question, well, the method is 30 years old, so there is a lot of discussion going on, because more and more people are applying it. So time is just one of the things that we are discussing about. We are discussing about in confidence interval or probability, or how, a bunch of stuff, and time is definitely one of the issues. For the moment it's rather static, although of course in order to model the development in time of a certain project area, for instance, or a certain area, there is no limitation of how many static states you use. Another thing is, for instance, to combine in one condition a sequence of events. So you say, okay, in this case I see that A, B, C, the condition A, B, and C happened in this order, and in another case it was B, A, C. And so you model these in this way. But I agree that there should there is some work still to be done. And regarding how strong the attractor is, actually there is a way to do it because for examining results in QCAs you have the consistency and the coverage. So in order to know how strong an attractor is, you use the empirical, how empirically, how much is this trajectory or this attractor that you found frequent empirically. So this would be a measure you could use. But then it's qualitative, so it's not, you cannot, the results that you get should be interpreted. It's not, I mean, the numbers that you get from your solution formulas imply that the researcher is there, that the interpretation of the researcher is there, because you coded, I mean, when we...
Same with the model.
Yeah, exactly, but you have to be very, very clear on how to do that. So you have to justify why cases are coded like that, and so you can, it's really a to and fro process.
Okay, thank you. I think we're running out of time because of my...
There's
But,
you didn't ask any question of the conference.
Who knows everything about models? Very quick.
Very quick, I think, well, I totally agree with Jenny's comment. So I've been using agent-based modeling in CA for a while now. I'm not familiar with QCA, so I won't be commenting on that. But I think that, as Jenny said, I really much prefer to use the term exploring than predicting, because it's very difficult to predict something with a certain degree of certainty or not, because it hasn't happened yet. And there are many things that can change in trigger shifts or tipping points that you might encounter, and so agent-based models or CA are very good tools to explore. But one of the beauties that I find in this kind of tools is that, of course, it's a computational tool, so you have to be, you have to quantify and you have to build the code and you have to set up the parameters and the thresholds and everything. But one of the really cool things is that you can incorporate subjective behavior or theories or whatever you want, or as you mentioned, the actor's narratives. You can incorporate this in a model that is quantitative, and this is something that I find.
I sorry to interrupt you, but it's, I don't know. We had, Lasse and I had the same impression that. I've read recently some papers on this, but it was not really done sufficient in a way that for a sociologist at least.
Yeah, I'm taking my full time on this, okay?
Yeah, of course.
I think my only question is.
How do I get out of here? Can someone close this down? I'm not quite sure what to do.
How can we transmit knowledge to the stakeholders or to the end users or to the policymakers? Because I think that's one of the biggest issues with this kind of methods. It's okay, we build really good models that are very good to explore, whatever, but you have to give them to the people that are making decisions.
But I mean, you mean the CA
Maybe you should,
or the QCA?
Well, I'm not familiar with CA and ADM, so I don't know.
maybe,
Yes,
I think we will continue.
I think so, yeah.
Drinks.
maybe because I think all that you've just been discussing, I will just be about to show you. So.